Hey, what's up, people? Welcome back to the Over in 8 Minutes podcast with me, Sam Matthews. This time we all want to be on our best behaviour. We're going to have to stand up, dress properly, look the part. We've got the chairman of St Mirren Football Club joining us today. He has graciously taken time out of his very busy day. He was very hard to get a hold of, but he was so worth the wait. John Needham, welcome to the podcast, sir. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Yeah, had a busy day through at the club today, but yeah, it's a beautiful evening and happy to be talking to you.
I'm happy that you managed to come on. I was telling you before we came on air, I've spent so long messaging footballers. My phone looks like a 15-year-old's Tinder at the moment. Literally nothing going on. And then you were gracious enough to reply and go, yep, I'll come on. I'll give you my time. And I thought it was my friends on the wind-up. I thought one of my friends had changed his profile picture. So I'm happy that you decided to come on.
Always, any chance to promote the club and what we're trying to do, I'm always up for it. And obviously, your dad did work for me, so you know.
I know it always helps when you can ring in your old man to pull a few favours for you. Well, we'll get started with the essentials. I've abandoned the quick fires. We're going to the quick three now. So I always start off with, what is one piece of sporting memorabilia you wish you could have hanging on your wall?
Yeah, well, this was, I would say for me, it would be Pele's jersey, a jersey worn by the world famous Pele. Because when I was a youngster, he was it, and you know he was the most amazing player. So yeah, a jersey that worn by the great Pele would be for me.
Yeah, I don't think that would look out of place in any Hall of Fame. I think that would go well on any wall. So secondly, what is the favourite piece of sports memorabilia or kit you've ever owned personally that calls back to your memory?
Well, I've got a newspaper from the first time when St Mirren won the Cup in 1959. So I've actually got the Evening Citizen from Glasgow for that particular evening, which is very fragile. It's in a poly bag in a box, but it's very much a treasured heirloom because my dad was at the game and he gave me the newspaper. So you know it's St Mirren have only won the Scottish Cup 3 times, so that was one of those 3 times. So that's a bit special for me, and certainly wouldn't sell it or give it away to anyone.
That's an icon. I never thought you would say newspaper in a million years, but the way you described it there, I think that trumps anything I've had so far. I've had people mention Commonwealth gold medals winning kit, but the fact you go, Dad was at the game, brought it back, I genuinely think that trumps it.
There's actually a sort of slightly funny story attached to it because my dad was at the game that night, and this was before he had married my mother, and he was due to meet her on a date that evening. But he got absolutely soaked getting back to Paisley. Now, I don't know if it was soaked inside or outside, but anyway, he failed to turn up for the date. And this was obviously the time before phones and all that sort of stuff. So he turned up at my mother's house on the Sunday, acting as if nothing had gone wrong at all. And he was sent packing. So the marriage almost never happened as a consequence of that cup final day. So I might not have been here if I didn't make up and actually get together afterwards. Yeah.
So basically, your mother had the patience of a saint, and that paper is the biggest what if in the Needham family history tree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's quite a pun. Yeah.
Well, and lastly, the iconic question that I regret putting in the intro because all my mates keep making me put it in now. So when I get credible people like yourself on, I now always ask you, would you prefer a bourbon or a custard cream?
Definitely a bourbon. Yeah, bourbon for me. Chocolate trumps custard. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I want to dive into head first. Obviously, we're going to talk about St Mirren, all of the great things the club's doing. But I want to talk about yourself personally and your background in sport. So where did your love for football come from? Was it child or was it
the game on a Saturday and sort of cried at the window as he went off to the football? So I wasn't allowed to go until I was age 5. So as soon as I was 5, then that was when I started watching St Mirren. So that's a long time ago, 56 years ago now, almost. And I've been watching them ever since. So that was really, and I was hooked from the very first moment. The first year I watched St Mirren, they ran away with the Scottish Second Division that year, scoring 100 goals and conceding 23, which is, I think, is still a record to this day. So yeah, so I couldn't walk away after that.
No, that would get you hooked. 5-1 on every game aggregate. I'd take that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Right, that's amazing. So, wait, did you play sport when you were young? I assume the bug was infectious and it took you from in the stands to on the turf as well.
Yeah, I always enjoyed playing football. I was never very good. My brothers, I've got 3 brothers, and 2 of them were always much better than me. I was as the oldest, I was a bit of a disappointment, I think, to my dad, isn't it, that I didn't become a footballer. But I'm a musician, so that's more the thing that I excel at, if you like. I play the cornet, and still to this day. So, you know, I've done a lot. I've played in the Royal Albert Hall, I think, 16 times. On my musical side of things. So, yeah. So I was always sort of putting goals when I was young, because I really wasn't very good at football. But I still play 5-a-sides to this day, to be honest. But so I love it. But I'm a very enthusiastic amateur.
It sounds like you've got it sorted there. You're preaching to the choir there about the oldest and not necessarily being the best. You had the sense to go and do something different. I just kept moving sports, and my brothers followed me and got better at that. So at least you had the sense to go, I'll just go play in the Royal Albert Hall. I really like how you snuck it in there as well. Like, I play music, I do a bit at Royal Albert Hall every now and again when I've got the time.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a lovely, what we call in the industry, a humble flex. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first team? Like, do you still keep any memories from that? Going back to the memorabilia sort of things, do you still have like do you remember the first kit you wore, like the under 6s or wherever it was?
Yeah, well, because I wasn't very good, I got a goalie jersey. So I can still remember it to this day. It was bright red. It was the thickest thing you could ever imagine, because it's none of these technical fabrics that you have these days. I mean, it was thick cotton, and it was made by the local sports shop who supplied St Mirren at the time with their kits. So yeah, it was a bright red, very thick jersey that I wore for years and years and years. Because I think it was huge when it was bought for me. You know, in those days, you know, things had to last much longer than the things today. So yeah, I think it was built for growth. So I wore that for years, and I used to enjoy playing in goals, throwing myself about in the mud. You know, it was always good fun.
So I want to go into. We're gonna jump a bit ahead now after the cornet playing and the goalkeeper gloves being pelted in goal by the younger brothers. So becoming the chairman of a football club, that is, to me, that is like the be all and end all. You've probably heard of Football Manager. That's like the way every kid lives his dream right now of managing his football club. You went the full step up and just went, I'm going straight to the top. How do you become a chair? What is the criteria for going, I qualify as chairman here? Is there like a brief set of 5 skills you'd be looking at on LinkedIn to go, that's chairman right there?
No, I mean, when I retired from sort of full-time work 5 years ago, I did want to do some, you know, sort of non-exec type work, which I've done. But the opportunity came up. It was about 2 years ago, so it's a bit different with St Mirren because we are 51% fan owned. So you know, it's not. I'm not the chairman. I'm not one of these. I'm not a Roman Abramovich type chairman who's. But the way it works with St Mirren was because the fan takeover was being teed up, they were looking for a director. So as part of the deal, they were going to have 4 directors on the board. There's another significant shareholder, a care organisation called Kibble. They've got 27%, and then the rest's owned by lots of different people. And so they were looking to recruit a director. And when I had been a member of the Supporters Association for you know, since it was established in order to try and buy the club, I had paid my dues, if you like. So I had the opportunity to apply to become a director, and I did that and was successful in that. And that was that would be sort of summer of 2020. So I joined the board then, and really that for me was just amazing. You know, I had never anticipated becoming the chairman at that stage. For me, that was kind of, I had reached nirvana, just becoming a director of the club that I'd supported for 50 odd years. But then the then chairman, Gordon Scott, decided that once he had handed over, he just felt that really it was the time to have a new chair at that stage, because he felt once he'd sold his shares to the supporters, then that should pass across. And the Supporters Association decided that they thought I would be the best candidate, and so Gordon nominated me, and that was then just carried through at the board meeting. So it was as simple as that, really. I never thought I would be the chair. I never really sought to become the chair, but that's what's happened, and I'm absolutely honoured to do it, and it's a fantastic thing for me. My dad, who's still alive and still drives best part of 100 miles to come to games each way from Stranraer to Paisley. He's hugely proud of it as well. So it just was a bit of serendipity, and here I am. So.
Wow.
And enjoying most aspects of it. There's certain aspects of it are a lot more onerous than perhaps I anticipated, but it's fascinating. And since I became chair, we've had to change our manager, change our chief exec, because of Jim Goodwin, the manager, went off to Aberdeen, so we had to recruit a new manager, and then the chief exec retired, and we've had to recruit a new. So there's been a lot going on in the past 9 months or so since I became the chair.
So you got all the fun jobs right from the off, did you?
Well, yeah, it certainly seems to have happened that way. But it is absolutely fascinating, and getting the chance to meet the backroom team and the team manager and players and all that sort of stuff is just it's the stuff of boyhood dreams, really. So I'm delighted to be involved, and as long as I'm adding some value and people want me to be there, then I'm very happy to help.
I was about to say the exact same thing, that I was going to avoid the boyhood dream cliche, but like you said, just not only that, but in a majority fan-owned club as well, getting that nod of approval, from the former chair in the Supporters Association. How do those feelings actually mix up? When you hear you've been nominated and put forward, or I still love the thought of you sat on in the terraces with the scarf on, and somebody goes, "Do you want a shot running this?" And you're kind of like halfway through sipping a Bovril, looking around, going, "Me."
Yeah. But it was a mixture of kind of almost incredulity, really, and excitement, and I think also you go through a bit of a cycle. It's like one of these learning curves. You then begin to say, well, actually, am I up to the task as well? So there was lots of emotions, and whilst the board of the Supporters Association had recommended me, it still had to go through a vote of all the members. So there were various hurdles to get across and get over. But having done all that, then I'm giving it my best shot, and we'll see how I'll be judged in history, I guess, in due course, whether I was a good chairman or not a good chairman. But it's certainly, it's really, it's, as I said, an honour, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Well, as an outside man looking in, it looks like you're doing a good job. It's a very, very prosperous club. I'm impressed. So you've got my vote of confidence if you ever need it. That's the vote everybody wants. The vote of some kid who's just trying to make a podcast. So I want to talk more about the duties of a chairman and like the day-to-day running of your job, if you don't mind exposing the trade secrets a little bit not the full works, but the little parts.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Are you very like hands-on? Is it a very hands-on role, or is it more a sort of I know when to delegate and step back because there's people that are better at the actual nitty-gritty of specific tasks? Or
yeah, no, I'm it's a balance that needs to be struck on that. So, I mean, it's not a full-time job. I'd spend usually a full day at the club every week, and then I do work remotely, email and calls and Zoom meetings and the like in between. So it probably takes, it's very much a part-time role. But as I say, we have a chief operating officer who basically runs the club day to day. And then obviously on the football side of things, you've got the team managers running the football side, the first team squad. We've got an academy director who runs the youth academy. So all of these people, I mean, they're employed to do their roles. My job is really to try and make sure that the things that comes together, that they're properly supported from the board. And on the board, we've all got areas of kind of responsibility that we help try and use the skills that we bring from industry, into the club. So we've got a guy who's, for example, very involved in property development and so forth. He had his own building company, so he looks after the kind of infrastructure side of things. We've got another guy who was a financial advisor. He's involved in the sort of trying to bring more commercial income into the club, sponsorship and that type of thing. One of our directors actually was a professional footballer, so he liaises more closely on the football side of things. So we have, individual responsibilities, and then obviously as a board we come together every month and sit down and try and look at strategy, progress, where we're up to. But it's a very fickle business. It's not like, I mean, as you know, I worked in a bank for almost 40 years, which is a completely different business. Football's so fickle. It depends so much on results. I mean, it'd be the same in any sport. It's not just football. Rugby would be exactly the same. And if you're on a good run, everything seems to be going well. And then if you're not on a good run, then the Twitter comments and the stuff on Facebook seems to become much more pointed and questioning whether things need to change. And so it's a bit of a roller coaster. As a fan, I always realise that, but it's like times 100 when you're on the board or you're the chair.
I was gonna put that question later, but you've mentioned it nicely. Is there such a difference to watching the team on a Saturday now as chair as it was? Because there's still the fan element for yourself, but like the other thoughts start creeping back in my mind, going, "Oh God, or like the next meeting is going to be really tough after this one."
Yeah. I mean, it really is quite different. The sense of responsibility, but in some ways, well, not in some ways, you're totally powerless as to what happens on the field. Once you'll have heard managers saying, once the team crosses the white line, there's nothing really I can do, kind of thing. And it's even more the case when you're another step, further removed. So, you definitely feel a pressure for the team to be successful, and because you've got some insight and knowledge of what's going on and some of the stuff that's maybe not public knowledge, and player fitness or player happiness or whatever, you've got all that churning around as well. So it's and you can't shout at the top of your voice and scream the way that you would as a fan either. You've got to a degree of decorum, which can be quite a challenge sometimes, when you're really frustrated about something. So, but yeah,
I think as a Bournemouth fan, they let you off every now and again. Just every once in a while.
Well,
that's John.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
I will always, no matter what happens, Sam, I will always be a fan. So that's the way it is, and sometimes you just can't help yourself, but shout out when something happens, like claim for penalty kicks and that kind of stuff. It's just in you. So as long as
you do a better job than I would, so don't worry. You do a better job than I would. You do a better job than I would. I'll tell you that for free. I can't even watch it on the telly.
Yeah, sometimes.
Have you ever caught your old does your old man manage to get near you, like where you are on the game day? Have you managed to get your old man a ticket sort of nearby, or?
No, his preferred seat is directly opposite, which is probably quite a good thing. I think he would give me a bit of earache at times, when things are not going so well. So no, he sits directly opposite us, so there's not much interaction really on match day apart from messages. My brothers are constantly messaging me during games because, as I said earlier, I've got 3 brothers, all fans. My nephew's a fan, my daughter's a fan, so there's always a lot of activity on WhatsApp and so forth, bemoaning the form of the team at times, or celebrating when we get a great result or a good goal or whatever. Yeah.
I love the thought of your family. Do you ever get now we're coming into summer, probably quite a fitting time. Have you ever got the WhatsApp chat where the dad and the brothers go, I hear this lad's available, do something about it? Or do you have to just sort of phone upside down and pretend you didn't get that one?
No, to be fair, they don't really often propose players. They're just maybe critical of certain ones that we have. You need to get rid of so-and-so, or so-and-so needs a kick up the backside. He's not playing as well as he could do. And then the manager's playing them out of position, and why have you not brought in a substitute? And all the usual stuff. But
everybody's a manager, John. Everybody's a manager.
Yeah, and team sports everyone loves because there are so many aspects where you can take an opinion and express your opinion on it. So it's we're all just crazy fans. That's it.
But that's what every fan will want to see. That is the smile that you talked about there when you're sat at the game and you're wanting to call for the penalty when you can't. To me, that speaks volumes. That's what I would want to see from a football board, chair, anybody. It's what you want to see. You want to see people that care about the club. So I have a lot of time and respect for that. So kudos to you for that one. So back into the day-to-day running and your position in the club. Would you say you're the conventional off-season? I know there's not much of an off-season in football anymore because especially in the bigger leagues, they send them around the world to play 40 games. But would you say the conventional off-season is probably busier for you than the regular season as the board and the backroom team?
I would say it's just different. I don't think it's less busy. So at the moment, obviously, and the players are all away on holiday. So, the season's just finished and most of the guys are away on holiday. But the manager and, Stephen's relatively new to the club. We appointed him in February. So he's basically recruiting players, signing players, sort of wheeling and dealing in the transfer market. So there's quite a lot of stuff happening. Also, it's the end of our financial year, so there's stuff to do around that, and budgeting for next year, and trying to drive more income into the club so that we can maintain the best possible team on the park. So there's always stuff to do. It's just a bit different at this time of year. The cycles, this part of the cycle is just a bit different. For example, I had a meeting today about potentially developing an area at the stadium to try and generate more income for us. I had a meeting with the chief operating officer talking about generating more income, and the fan survey that we've got underway at the moment, how that was going, season ticket sales. When are our jerseys going to arrive from China? For next season.
We have to get one right here. We'll have to get a jersey here. I want a signed jersey. I promise it will never come off the clothes hook if there's a signed jersey there. And I will make sure I don't record another episode until one's there.
We'll see what we can do for you. Yeah.
Oh, you're a gentleman. I'll pay. Do you know what? I'll cover it. I'll pay for it as well. You get the signatures. I'll pay for the jersey.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
If you can get John McGinn's on there as well.
I could certainly do that. Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah. John. And if he was around, he would do it. He's a really great guy. Actually, the whole family, the McGinn family, all 3 brothers came through our academy. And they've got very strong St Mirren connections still, and 3 really lovely guys.
Are you waiting for that day when he's you wait for that day when he's a bit closer to home, and you get like the prodigal son to return, and you're just like, right,
Well,
I've got a gig for you.
Be very happy for him to finish his career with us. That's for sure. Yeah, he'd be a huge
I'm going to label that as the exclusive. John McGinn promises to retire at St Mirren, and that will get all the clicks. We're sorted.
that would be great. Yeah.
Well, you've heard it here, folks. First, folks, John McGinn will finish his career in the St Mirren jersey.
Well, I never said that. I said I would love to do it. Just to be clear.
You'll come back with a horrible Scouse accent from Stephen. That's what will happen. I say Stephen like I know him. Stephen Gerrard.
Yeah.
God, Brummy Paisley, and what else? And a bit of Scouse thrown in there.
That'd be quite a mixture. That would be if he had all three aspects. Yeah.
You'd come with subtitles with that one. That would be for sure. So I want to talk. You touched on it nicely earlier with your old job, obviously in the bank, accounting, finance, all those sort of aspects. How does the difference between in a bank, like you said, the jobs are the same yet so different? And I kind of, when I was writing down notes for this, I didn't really know how to put it into words of what to ask you, but I was kind of thinking about the public eye aspect of the football that you kind of touched on. Is you're a job that's so under scrutiny when people know so little about what actually goes on. Like you said, people see 11 boys running around the park and a bunch of boys warming up on the sides and go, this is the be-all and end-all of this business. And then actually, like you said, there's so many different guys working behind the scenes to make stuff goes on. What is the key sort of different aspects of it? Like, what are the noticeable differences between the new role and the older roles you've worked in?
I think the key thing is that you're so inextricably linked to the fan base. And their attitudes and their responses and their emotions around the club that, that's there all the time. In a bank, frankly, unless you do something terribly wrong, it's hard to get passionate about, as a customer of a bank, Believe it or not, there are people who tried to tell us over the years that, banking should be exciting, banking should be, frankly, I used to say banking should be totally boring. It's like, it should be like the engine of a Mercedes. It just purrs along and you shouldn't have to trouble yourself with it. That football or any sport that people care about and support, I think that just brings such a different aspect to it. Everybody's got opinions. They're not slow to voice those opinions as well. And social media now has become such a driver of things. So I think that's the main difference, is that everybody's trying to give you advice from the outside, and they expect things to happen yesterday because they think because they play FIFA Football Manager that they're qualified to be able to advise on such things. And a football club like St Mirren, we don't have a big team of people behind the scenes. Everything's geared towards getting the team on the park, and so getting things done that are complicated or changes. Last year we changed our ticketing system, and that was a massive exercise for us to actually do that. And people forget that running a project like that is actually takes a big chunk of the team's time behind the scenes. So. And even just launching the season tickets and the pricing for the following year, all these things, they're quite intensive at the time, because it's very much in the public eye if you don't get it right. And pleasingly, this year the season ticket exercise has gone really well, and although we've had to put prices up, I think we've explained it well as to why we've had to do that, because we held prices right through all the COVID time when people were essentially buying tickets and not getting to see games. So obviously through that period we held prices, and we provided free streaming of the games instead. Well, when I say free, that was at no additional cost, if you like.
Yeah, the ticket was for the stream.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year, because of inflation, across the board, we always had to increase prices, and normally I think a 10% increase would be horrendous, for people to accept. But because it was, that was kind of making up for 3 years. It's landed pretty well, I think, and people seem to be, think it's reasonable. So yeah, I think, to go back to your question, the big thing is this: just everything is under scrutiny all the time. Everything you publish, everything you do, the experience of the fans at every single game is up there for comment, and they certainly are not slow to give you feedback, for sure.
That's good. I know I work in marketing, and I know a lot of people crave real-time data, so there's probably not a better subject than that, than a crowd full of people that are going either this is brilliant or this needs to change.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for being so candid about that as well. I didn't even plan to mention the tickets, but thank you for being so open with that. I think the fans will really appreciate you taking the time to actually say we're aware we increased it, but we think it's fair. And obviously, nobody ever likes to pay more money, but it does become a point where things have to go up. So thank you for being so honest to say that on the pod. I know a lot of people would have shied away from something like that. So we've spoken about you as the chairman. We've spoken about the duties as the chairman. I kind of want to talk about what makes football so unique itself. We've spoken a lot about what the club's been, what the club's done. I want to talk about what the club, the business of the club is, football. So what for you makes football so unique when we compare it to other sports?
For me, it's the sport I was drawn to first of all. So, I think I've always been a fan, and my father has. So I think, it's probably kind of handed down from my dad in terms of interest in football. I just find it's amazing. You go to a game and you're totally sucked into what's happening on the pitch. I can feel myself almost kicking the ball at times. It's just, it's so immersive, the experience, and I think, football has always been the kind of sport of the working man, if you like, or the working, females obviously as well, and I think it's a subject of conversation when you meet up with your mates and you're talking about the games, or meet up with your family. It just draws you in. It's quite hard to actually explain, but I don't think there's anything else that really makes my heart race, in terms of something I would watch on TV or anything like that, as much as football. I played a bit of rugby at school, and I enjoy watching Scotland games, but I have to be honest, I don't feel quite as passionate as I do about football. And I think it's the speed of the game, the skill, the unexpected can happen at any moment in a football match. And it's the controversy aspects and the opinions and the debate, both during and after the game. It adds to the whole thing, so it's, I absolutely love it, as you can tell from the description. It's my favourite sport by a long chalk.
Well, like you said there, you love it, and it has clearly come through. Now, I've just thought of a nice, really quick question that I'm going to ask you. Would you rather Scotland win the World Cup, which is very possible if the game on Wednesday and Saturday go well, or St Mirren win the SPFL?
It would undoubtedly be St Mirren winning the SPFL.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's never happened before. I know Scotland never won the World Cup, but it would just be incredible. Highly unlikely, I accept. But I've followed St Mirren into Europe, so anything's possible. Anything's possible. And you look at down south, Leicester City winning the English Premiership. I think breaking the Scottish kind of duopoly of Rangers and Celtic is a bit more challenging right enough. Just in terms of finance, they have such an inbuilt advantage. But we always hope. And what would be even better would be both things happening in the same year, Sam. Scotland winning the World Cup and St Mirren winning the league. I'd die a happy man at that stage.
I think I'd be dead. That's for sure. I wouldn't be at work
It
the
would be
next day.
some
That's for
party.
sure. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Yeah, yeah. I think that would be the party to beat all parties. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that would be a day. How do you think Wednesday's going to go? Do you think the boys have got a good chance? I'm just going to talk football now. You've started me talking about football. I'm not even.
I think
I'll
they've
forget
got
the
a good
podcast's on.
Yeah, no, I think they have a good chance on Wednesday. I really admire Steve Clarke and the way he's set the team up, the way he's made them almost like a kind of club team atmosphere. You know, he seems to have created a real sense of team effort. And you know, having spoken to Steve when he's an excellent Mirren player, so he comes along to games at Paisley, you know, reasonably regularly. And I've spoken to him, and he's a really interesting guy. You know, he's very, very straightforward, but very firm in his views. You know, he really knows his own mind, as you can imagine. And you know, I think he's done a really good job. So I know that probably the whole world will want Ukraine to win, just because of the situation in their country, which is just dreadful. But you know, I'm a Scotsman, and I want Scotland to beat them. So I make no apology for that on Wednesday, and I'm hoping we do scrape through. I think it'll be a very tight game. I can't see, you know, we've played them relatively recently, and there's never been that much in the games. So I think it'll be a tight one, probably a one goal either way.
I completely agree with your sentiment. I think what's happening is dreadful, but there is 90 minutes on Wednesday, unfortunately, when I do want Scotland to win. I'll tell you a story. I'm part of this. Will go out later, so this will be fun when my boss sees this, because we've got our company's technically an English company, so we're the only office in Edinburgh. The other three are Manchester, London, Bournemouth, and we had like a big group call last week, and they were talking about the Scotland qualifier, and they were just like, oh, surely you've got to let Ukraine win. And one of the other Scottish boys piped up. He was like, no, they've had Eurovision. We're having this one. That's it.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And you know, if it was England, there's no way the English would want to lie down to Ukraine either. And it almost feels unfortunate. The time in the game is really unfortunate, but hopefully maybe gives their people a kind of relief from some of the awful stuff that's going on in the country, and we can still win.
Yeah. So we're getting towards the very end. We've spoken about what St Mirren did, what you're doing right now. What's the future looking like for St Mirren? What are your aims as the sort of, I know you're not the main be-all, head-all Roman Abramovich, but what's your sort of direction you're looking to push the club?
Well, I mean, our strategy is very much about community, about really making the club the heart of the Paisley community. I mean, Paisley is the biggest town in Scotland, almost 100,000 population, so it's a big place. And you know, the catchment area for the club is large. So for me, it's about us really being a community club, as really representing the fans' voices and what we do and the way we go about things. And we're doing a consultation exercise with the fans, the first big consultation exercise that we've ever done, asking their views on how we organise ourselves for Celtic and Rangers games next season, whether we give, you know, how many seats basically we give them, because that's a big topic of debate.
I know my answer.
So we're really trying to engage the fans, and we'll do more and more of that going forward to try and make sure that the club's run in a way that they feel proud of the club, and it represents the fan base and their values and so forth. The other thing is we're quite famous for producing good quality young players, and so over the years, well, you look at the Scotland squad, there's John McGinn, Kenny McLean, you know, who came through St Mirren, and we've produced a lot of good players over the years. Maybe haven't quite got as big transfer fees for them as we would have liked. So that's an area where we're going to try and do better, because that then generates more income obviously for reinvestment in the team. So really getting the academy, pushing players through, and we've got the current under-17 captain is on our books, Dylan Reid, as well. So we've got some really good youngsters coming through. So again, integrating those into the team and giving them opportunity to flourish, and hopefully, we realise our position in the football ecosystem. They won't stay with us once they get to a certain level, and they'll move on to a bigger side. But we want to be famous for producing youngsters that go on to great things, like John McGinn currently, and in the past, people like Frank McAvenny and Frank McGarvey, and we've produced a lot of great players over the years. Gordon McQueen going further back, so there's been there's a great history there and tradition of that, and that's an area we're really focusing on to try and make sure that we are maximising the investment we make in our academy for that. So yeah, it's all about community, and also and we're seeing a lot more females, coming to games, which is great. And we built a platform, an accessible platform for disabled people recently as well, so that they've got a fantastic view of the games. And rather than them be sitting on the track or really low down, they're in an elevated position, and we've got an escalator, a lift that can get them up to there, and so they've got a really good position to watch the games. So encouraging all that sort of thing, and we're looking, at things like sensory capability within the stadium as well, to see if we can do something there. So there's a lot of stuff to really try and make the club represent the community that we serve, and make it much more successful as a consequence. So that's really it, and trying to attract a lot more younger fans. COVID's been very difficult because we haven't been allowed to get the players into schools and youth groups and all that kind of thing. So we're currently looking at reactivating all of that activity, so that we can catch them young before they they find other sports, other activities that get their attention. So we'll be doing a lot of that in the next winter, to try and get more youngsters along, and we'll do lots of discounted offers to get them in the stadium, and hopefully get them hooked, as I was age 5. So because I think if you get them hooked and we can be reasonably successful, then we'll have them as fans forever, which is great.
Fans bring in other fans. That's what I've learned listening to sports doing this. So like you said, start them young, they bring their mates, everybody's having a good time. St Mirren win the SPFL, Scotland win the World Cup, John Needham gets a statue outside the home end.
What's not to like? Or something for the locals to throw their pies at you.
That sounds like a weird tradition that may well in 50 years may happen. Going, it's tradition that the John Needham statue gets pelted with pies and we always win 3-0.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not your statue, but it might be.
I doubt it. But anyway.
Well, John, thank you so much for all those questions you've answered today. You've given some beautiful insight as to what it's like to actually be involved in the upper parts of a football club and how everything runs. And I can't thank you enough for this and your time. But I can't let you leave without answering the iconic question. So you've just had the big club win. We can pretend this is after the SPFL win. Sat in the changing room with all the team, all the staff, everybody's in there. You've got one arm around the trophy, one arm around the team captain, and the captain goes, "That's it, my man. You are on tunes. You have to pick 3 songs to get the team ready for the night out." What 3 songs are they?
All right. Well, there's an obvious one, which is the Skids. The Saints Are Coming, which is a favourite of the fans, and often played at home games. So that would probably be number 1. I couldn't not mention "Oh When the Saints," which is our tune, if you like, and I cringe when I hear other teams singing it, and not actually having the Saints to put into it. So definitely this "Oh When the Saints," and my dad would never forgive me if I didn't mention that. And then The other one, which is usually used to wind up away supporters, is to the tune of "Cheer Up, Sleepy Jean," and it kind of goes along the lines of and a very poor football team. So we usually pick one of the opposing players, prominent players, or the manager or whatever, and insert their name. So whoever we meet in the final game, or whoever we pick into second place, I think we would probably use their name in that one. So that would be three favourites. Yeah,
I love that. And the final song?
I thought I'd given you three. Sorry, I've given you three.
You gave me Skids and you gave me Sleepy Jean.
And When the Saints in between.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. I've missed them. I put them in the same one. You cut out and you put them in the same one. So there goes. So you got the Skids, the Saints are coming. You got When the Saints go marching in, and you got Sleepy Jean to wind up whoever you pick to the park.
Yeah.
I love that. That's brilliant. That's proper.
Yeah.
That's proper football celebrations. I love that. John, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. This has been an absolute pleasure. Pardon?
I was going to say it's been a pleasure for me. I can't believe how quickly the time's gone, and I've really enjoyed the chat. So it's been good fun. Great.
No, thank you very much. You've now got a new St Mirren fan in me, and that means I'll be bringing all my pals. We'll get ourselves in, get the games going. There's going to be a signed St Mirren shirt up there, come hell or high water, whatever I have to do. And then, where should they go to follow and keep up with the team? Should we just get the St Mirren Twitter in the bottom? We'll get the St Mirren Instagram. Get everybody there.
If you want to, you can certainly follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and the club website is always been updated as well, stmirren.com. So yeah, the more the merrier. Anyone who has an interest in the club or is interested in finding out more, everyone's welcome for sure. And if anyone sees me around at the ground, I'm always saying to people, look, I can't know everyone, but feel free to buttonhole me and come and give me your opinions and tell me what you think and give me your suggestions. We're always looking for ways to improve things.
You're a brave man, John, for saying that. Thank you very much, folks. That is the end of the podcast. Please like, subscribe, follow St Mirren through and through. Mon the Saints, they're coming in and they're going to lift the SPFL. Thank you very much, folks. I'll see you again next week for another great episode. Cheerio. Goodbye.